they can be collected. When I told Martin that I was going to announce him, he said, "Jan, that's okay, but keep it simple." And you know, for me to keep things simple is not always that easy a task. But I must tell you, the first time I met Martin was in 1998. It was at Wheaton, at Alcott, where we had a gathering of the Theosophical Federation of the Americas. And that was the first time we met, and actually the last time we met in the flesh, right? But ever since, we kept in touch with each other. And what I have to tell you about Martin is that he is a wonderful lecturer, a wonderful person. He was born in Venezuela. He is an industrial engineer. He lectured in many countries in Latin America. Okay. Sorry. The cameraman. He lectured in many countries. He also lectured at the International Theosophical Center in Naarden. And when I knew that he was there, I sent him a mail, and he said, "Jan, I still see your footsteps there." You know, because I had been working there for a long time. He's very focused on the study of the Secret Doctrine, and he's going to introduce and talk to you about the stanzas as presented in the Secret Doctrine. He lives with his wife in Los Angeles. He's a member of the board of Crotona, the Crotona School of Theosophy, and I think I've kept it simple, right? Ladies and gentlemen, Martin Leiderman.
Thank you, Jan. And I would like to, of course, thank the board of ITC for inviting me. It's a big responsibility. My gratitude to the board of ITC for inviting me. I was saying it's a great honor and responsibility to give the keynote of this incredible event. And more that I already heard this afternoon, our first event, couple events this afternoon. I can see it's so important to have this space, right? This space is very mystical, very important. It's a space that we can share. It's up to us, of course, but to share the most important aspect of our life. We have jobs, we have a place to live, we have cars, family, but the mystical life, that part that transcends our physical senses and psychic world, to have that opportunity to build on each other's experience, no matter how we say it, how we challenge it, how we deal with each other, but it's a space allotted to us to do just that. Isn't that incredible? This is a holy moment, and I feel it in that way. So, if in any moment you lose me, it's not me. Please, fix your thingy in the ear, okay? Okay, thank you. I also love the topic of social responsibility is very needed. Isn't that true? We live in a world that rivers, lakes, oceans, cars, I mean, it's just a mess. Isn't that true? It's a big mess. Now, it's so much mess that we need to explain what is social responsibility, and we find that there are billions of opinions on it. There is always this balance between jobs and ecology. That's what I read in Wikipedia. Right? So, and it's true. Isn't that true? How you're going to feed billions of human beings? How many billions? 7.3. There were 10 born just now. So how we're going to feed them and clothe them and give them a house and give them a job, right? In the place to do is a tannery dumping all that poison in the Ganges River. How are we going to do it? And you're going to tell the owner, hey, you're making money here and don't give jobs to these 500 people. You can't do that. But that's what we need to do. How are we going to do all this? Therefore, social responsibility is very important. I think we all agree. In answers, I don't have one. And I'm here also to listen to all of you and you to share with me and all of us these ideas that how Theosophy can enrich awareness about social responsibility. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. Not easy. Not easy. But the topic of my keynote is also about the stanzas of Dzyan. So I want to do what Jean did and ask for hands. Who never read the stanzas of Dzyan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. Last time he asked a question, there were 5 hands. Are you the same 5 hands that you always? Thank you. Okay, so this is dedicated to you 5. This, and of course to my old friend Dara Eklund. Yes, good night, Dara. And this is my life effort, the study of the stanzas of Dzyan. Why? The theme is Theosophy and social responsibility. I already told you that social responsibility, I don't know how to solve it. It's infernally difficult topic. Isn't that true? Well, worse than that is Theosophy. It's very difficult to study Theosophy. Isn't that true? I don't know. Maybe, you read the stanzas and you got it. That's very cool. Well, not me. I'm struggling for 40 years. And it's very important. They're very important. I'm going to tell you in a minute my opinion. Everything I say here is my opinion. Please, take it like that. It's not from TSA, it's not from Tim, it's not from Rada, it's not from anybody. It's just me, myself, and Martin, right? And if you need any of my reference, let me know. I'll email them to you. That would be cool if you are interested. If you want these lecture notes, email me. I'll email them to you. It's very cool if you want that. Therefore, I went to the key to Theosophy to understand more about social responsibility. And what I found out is in one of the questions, they ask, remember the key to Theosophy is a book written by Blavatsky, 1889, and it's questions and answers, right? One of the questions is, okay, tell me, why is it that to establish a brotherhood, a universal brotherhood, fraternity of men, human beings, is so difficult? It's a utopia, the word that they use. Isn't that true? Utopia. Why is it so difficult? And Blavatsky answered, and this was the shocking part, is first and foremost, the natural selfishness of human nature. If we cannot form a universal brotherhood, and I don't have a word for sisterhood and brotherhood. If you have one, I could use it, more politically correct. But you understand what I mean, right? If we don't have a way to channel all our energies for the betterment of the world, of our humanity, Blavatsky is saying, first and foremost, the natural selfishness of human nature. And selfishness is a terrible thing. And when I look in my life, am I selfish? No, of course not. Right? Oh, yeah. Right, I'm not selfish. And that is a problem, because she continues saying, cannot be eradicated. And that's also terrifying. Cannot be eradicated. I wish I had a Russian voice. Cannot be eradicated. I don't know. Maybe Olga can help. An irresistible feeling by the present religious education. Oh, she loved religious education. And I may add today the notion, this is my words, the notion of nationalism, corporate greed, fear based on personal insecurity. Isn't that true? All these give us this sense of selfishness. insecurity about strangers and foreigners. And we see that nowadays where there is so many migration, even though migrations has been all over. My parents were born in Romania, I was born in Venezuela. You know, I mean, it's a long trip, isn't it? So, this is something to meditate upon, to think about it. Natural selfishness. Natural. What natural means? Innate, right? With us, right? We're born, we're naturally selfish. And why? It's strengthened and it's stimulated ferociously, irresistible by religious education. I would like to stand that political parties, corporations, right? At home, you know, families say things like that. But then, the root cause of all that is not governments, it's not corporations, it's humans. Behind a corporation, there is a board of directors. Government, people, right? Armies, people. People everywhere, you and me. So, it's the human nature. True? This is the root of all. Then she continues. The antidote provided by Theosophy is simply and demonstrating on logical, philosophical, metaphysical, and even scientific grounds that all men, I'm going to say all human beings, have spiritually and physically the same origin. This is fundamental to Theosophy. So, one of them, antidote, you know, vaccination, right, is that spiritually, physically, we have the same origin. And because, and I'm going to jump a little bit, you all have the key to Theosophy, because by teaching that the root of all nature, objective and subjective, and everything else in the universe, visible and invisible, is, was, and ever will be one absolute essence. In other words, if you explain and demonstrate to your fellow human in this planet that the root of all nature is one, we come from the same root, all the problems are solved. Wow, I don't even know what's the root of all. You see what I mean? She saw it so clearly. By teaching that the root of all nature, objective and subjective, and everything else in the universe, visible and invisible, what was, is, and ever will be, is the same. And from which all starts and into which everything returns. Isn't that beautiful? So, in London, in Hyde Park, you're going to find myself, right, with the Secret Doctrine saying, the root of all nature. Have you been in Hyde Park in London, where you have these people teaching people the root of all evils? Okay, you'll see me. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing will happen. Isn't that true? Yeah. Nothing. We can't do this. So my fellows, I think here is the greatest gift of Theosophy to the world. In that word, the root of all nature. Because if there is an explanation anywhere about this essential unity of all human beings and nature, it's in the Secret Doctrine. And that is what took me to the Secret Doctrine. To really get into it, to understand what is this root. And root as a word is found everywhere. I know a lot of you know the Secret Doctrine and know the root of nature. It's a word well used. And this is going to be, again, my presentation to you. How to explain, how to show the root of all nature is one, including the human being. We agree? It's a good thing? As a keynote? Well, I want to declare I cannot do that. Because it's infernally difficult. By the way, the word infernally was used by Blavatsky in a letter to Sinet. This is a beautiful letter. So it's very difficult. So I decided instead of doing what I cannot do, I'm going to do something that I can confuse you. It's better, huh? And in that, we're going to see how we can understand the root of all nature together. Is it better? In order to do that, I'm going to use several techniques to study the stanzas of Dzyan. And if any of these techniques can be useful for you, my gift to you. If you're using them, welcome aboard. If you don't like them, I love you. Share what you know. Isn't that cool? I don't know if this can lead to this, what Blavatsky saw, but the antidote is by teaching that the root of all nature, taka, 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 taka. So this is the antidote. You know, this is the cure of all. This is very important. What else are we doing here? And that's why we're here, to study Theosophy. Divine wisdom, correct? Divine wisdom. Now, I'm going to allow at the end some time for questions and answers, right? I have a small presentation, 2-3 hours. By then, I hope none of you are here. This is like the famous lecture Plato gave. It was 4 hours on the nature of the good. And at the 4th hour, Aristotle told the world in his writing, I was the only one there after 4 hours on the nature of the good. Isn't that incredible? And for hundreds of years, people were talking about the nature of the good. And Aristotle boasted he's the only one who lasted 4 hours. So I want to see if that happens. Therefore, what do we find in the stanzas of Dzyan? And I counted 5 hands that never read the stanzas of Dzyan. What is in here is very important. And for us, what we call Theosophy. And these teachings came down in a mysterious form, right? We all agree, the ones who study here, through some masters, right? Great masters, who we studied some of the letters this afternoon. And there are plenty of books about the masters' letters. And in one of them, letter 18, or 9, 18 chronologically, 9, the way that I studied it. How do we call it? When the Barker did, right? Published them. And Joy Mills wrote in her notes, you remember Joy Mills? I love my teacher. She said, this letter marked the beginning of real teachings from the Master, from the Mahatmas. The first letter. She was so cool. Thank you, Susan, for the quote. So how do we know that this is true? How do we know that there is some truth here, that this is worthwhile? Well, don't know. You have to investigate. It's up to each of us to find that out. Nobody can do that for you. You have to spend countless hours and days and years to do that. But in that letter, there is a statement very interesting. The mission of the planetary spirit, for those who don't know what a planetary spirit is a name given to a group or a kind of hierarchy of the divine beings. Is that cool? Right? A group of hierarchy of the divine beings are called planetary spirits. If you like the study of the hierarchy of the divine beings, which I'm going to touch a little bit, stanza 4. That's the one for you. But we're going to get there in a minute. The mission of one group of the hierarchy of the celestial beings is to strike the keynote of truth. Beautiful words. To strike the keynote of truth. That keynote of truth, it says here, once it has directed the vibration by the ladders to run its course, right, at the end of the cycles, the denizens of the highest inhabited spheres disappear from the surface of our planet. These vibrations of the primitive truth is what your philosophers name ideas. Ideas. Beautiful word. Ideas. Don't you think blue is good for ideas? Remember, in stanza 1, one of the slokas says, time was not, right? So here, time delay is part of that. By the way, that's a beautiful line, time was not. Isn't that true? Time was not. How are we going to tell our fellow scientists there was a time that time was not? You think they'll understand time was not? Yes. Why? Because photons travel at the speed of light. And Einstein already told us that as you go as fast as the speed of light, or as you approach the speed of light, time is not. Isn't that incredible? Time slows down. To the point that at the speed of light, time is not. So they know this stuff. Don't be afraid of talking to scientists. They know more than we do about time was not. Imagine photons traveling at the speed of light and they see no time. Can we understand that? No, and we are theosophists. So there's mysteries and magic in science too. So again, what they say is that the planetary spirit, and I'm going to use their general term, in Theosophy it's called Dzyan. And the only thing it means is the hierarchy of divine beings in nature. How's that? Easy, huh? Hierarchy of the divine beings in nature. And what they do is contemplating the ideas that are ever present in nature. Isn't that a beautiful idea? Ever present. These incredible ideas. You want to study those ideas? Plato. This is from Plato. Study Plato. Where? The Republic and the Timaeus and Parmenides, of course. So, the Dzyan, what they do is they give us the keynote from these ideas and they establish nature and their laws. Isn't that cool? And this is the universe, the physical universe that we live. It's like a bridge to Valhalla. Isn't that beautiful? So what happens to those ideas? Where are those keynotes? Well, those keynotes are taught by this hierarchy of divine beings. And we were told in the very last stanza of Anthropogenesis the following. The fifth humanity was, and I'm shorting this out because of time flies, right? The fifth humanity, and for those of you who hasn't studied, just work with me. This is terribly difficult. We agree, please. The fifth humanity, and you are part of this, fifth humanities. If you wonder who were the fourth, we have a name for them. Atlanteans, right? Atlanteans. We know so much, huh? Atlanteans, we already superated them. We transcended them, right? We integrated them. But I see them in the freeways in Los Angeles, in the highways. I don't know. There's something wrong here. Okay. This says the fifth was ruled over by the first divine kings. Every ancient mythology talks about them. Names, Quetzalcoatl. It's a beautiful one in Mexico. I know you all know Quetzalcoatl. First you have to learn how to spell it and pronounce it. It's so simple. Quetzalcoatl. You know, you just listen to the tape. Quetzalcoatl. Other names. In Egypt, you remember? Who? Rata, well, I never, let's say yes, huh? Sounds like Quetzalcoatl, okay, let's say yes. Osiris, Menes, and many others, right? And so on. So the divine beings, divine kings. Also Herodotus in his book, second book, about the history of Egypt, talk about them.
What page are you on?
I'm in page 21, volume 2. Page 21, volume 2. Wow. My brother is here. He brought the book. This is success. This is very good. This is very good. Proud of you, man. Proud of you. And then in 49, in that book, 49, he says, who redescended, who is who? The first divine kings. Who redescended, who made peace with the fifth, us, you and me, who taught and instructed us. Taught and instructed. Taught and instructed. Taught, I'm trying to get the sound back. Got it. Taught and instructed. What were the instructions? You remember them? I mean, they taught us. No, but we don't need to know. Why? It's recorded in stanza 4, number 1. So for my brother here, it's on page, in 4.1. This is, when I say 4.1, means stanza 4, sloka 1. It says 4.1, page 30. Huh? You got it? You have the 2 in 1?
Yes.
Perfect. It says here, listen. This is for you now. Listen, ye sons of the earth, that's you and me, to your instructors, the sons of fire. See the connection? Huh? Sons of fire. Learn that there is neither first nor last. Wow. There is no first nor last. So what do we have? A universe that is always on. Right? Do you hear that? These are the keynotes. Very important. 3 of them. 1 easy. No first, no last. So never ask the question, what happened in the beginning? Because there is no beginning. Who made this? Nobody. It's already here. Now, do you believe this? Don't know. It's very difficult. You have to use your intuition. I'm going to show you how. Yes, bear with me. First teaching. There is neither first nor last. Do you see the connection? From the last stanzas of Dzyan, the last stanza, we jump in anthropogenesis, which jump to cosmogenesis to link. This is called linking. Linking ideas. The only way to study. Linking ideas. So one of the technique is linking. Cool? You're going to do that? Link? Who links already? This is so important. Link. Link is very important. Link. Well, you link, as you study. This book is not a textbook, so you have to link, those ideas, right? Linking is important. Second teaching. For all is one. Do you hear that? All is one. All. What is all? Everything. All. There is no part here. All is one. Got it? You, me, the universe. All is one. All is one. Very difficult to understand that it's all one. How to understand that all is one? The root. We have to go to the root. Remember Blavatsky told us? The root. The root is very important. So, all is one, second teaching. Can we get that? The first, there is no beginning, no end. Second, all is one. Third keynote, and this is the very difficult one. Number issue from no number. Oh, this is abstract. So number, let's say 1, issue from no number. Can you give a number? 0. Who said 0? 0. Karma point. Good. So you ask the Lipika for 1 gift next time. Number, issue from no number. So 1 came from the 0. What does it mean? We're going to see it in a minute. Just work with me. So, in order to understand these 3 keynotes, we need to understand that the Timaeus. And the Timaeus, they said, or Plato wrote, that Zeus, or the Demiurge, in order to create the universe, contemplated the pre-existing ideas in his mind. This is what we call divine thought. And by doing that, he established the laws of nature, the universe itself. Because this gave us the plan. The plan. See that? The plan? Therefore, if we could connect in one moment with those ideas, this will show up. How do we know that? Plato said. Have you ever done this? Well, study, contemplate, and use your buddhi. You all know what buddhi is? Intuition. Integrate these ideas. So the mind studies and comprehends and links and uses the law of analogy and correspondence. We're going to use that in a minute. And then to integrate this, we go from the concrete to the abstract. From the concrete to the abstract. What happened here then? Imagine if you could, for one moment, have an eye. Do you all agree this is like an eye? No? Well, let's write it out. Yeah, I'm not Da Vinci. So, if you had an eye that is able to contemplate this, remember Plato's famous analogy. Just as we have a physical eye that can see physical objects because of the sun, so we have a spiritual eye, an eye of contemplation that can see the ideas because of the good. He called the good the one. And that is going to be the good. The good illuminates the ideas. That is so beautiful. Give me goosebumps every time I study that. Therefore, answer these questions. What are those perennial ideas, those pre-existing ideas that the third logos, the demiurge, contemplated to develop our nature? Isn't that a wonderful thought? What are those great ideas? Let me tell you, those ideas are in the Secret Doctrine. They are in the Book of Timaeus, in the Republic of Plato, and many other places. If we could get in one moment to be one with these ideas, we are illuminated. Why? Well, Plato said that these ideas are the most brilliant light of being. The most brilliant light of being. They have no shape. They have no form. And yet they inform and give the qualities to everything in nature. Isn't that incredible? And he also gave us the path. He said, one of the paths, if you see an apple and you want to be in touch with the idea of the apple and understand appleness, all what is its function, its purpose, its forms, its meaning of life, and so on, just look at the beauty of an apple. The idea of the beauty is how our soul can contemplate and travel this ladder. Isn't that something? Beauty. By beauty. This is some essential, important things to remember. Then, this explains, therefore, the bridge, right? In page 16 of the Secret Doctrine, since I know some of you like pages, he said, this something at present unknown to Western speculation is called Fohat. Remember that? Zeus, you remember seeing him with a bunch of lightning bolts? What are they? Fohat. Now we know, right? We know so much now. Now, he says here, what is Fohat? It is the bridge by which the ideas existing in the divine thought are impressed on cosmic substance as the laws of nature. Laws of nature are septenary and so on. You see how it's all coming as one, I hope, right? This is the Secret Doctrine, right? Transmitted and made manifest through the Dhyan, the architects of the visible world. You see that? Isn't that beautiful? Now we understand it. You want to expand, go to Plato. It's all in there. in the Timaeus, Parmenides, the Republic. It's all there. This is all the Platonic philosophy. Was Plato one of them? Of course he was. He has to. He taught us the same thing. The Timaeus divided in 3 parts. When they asked him, what should we talk about it? Well, why don't we talk in that dialogue? Let's talk about how the world came into being, cosmogenesis. How the human beings show up, anthropogenesis. And in the middle, why don't you tell us the myth of Atlantis? Isn't that incredible? That's the Timaeus. It's so simple. So simple. So it's not like we don't have testimonials. So one technique, of course, to study the stanzas of Dzyan is linking. What linking does to you? It's very simple. Let's say that you want to understand the idea, and this is my favorite one. I always use this one. It's just so evident. You want to understand the idea of darkness. Darkness is the most difficult idea in the Secret Doctrine because it's space. Right? Everything is a symbol for space. Everything that we have here is space. So it says here in stanza 1, darkness alone filled the boundless all. Isn't that beautiful? Darkness alone filled the boundless all. Then we cross the page, we pass the page, and we read that darkness alone. And by the way, let me finish one thing here. Let me just write the laws of nature. Laws of nature. And what are those laws of nature? Don't tell. This is for me, okay? I get paid to do this. The laws of nature, a bunch of them. How about the law of harmony? It's harmony. The law of analogy. And it's analogy because there is a symmetry. That as above, so below, right? Some symmetry. The law of hierarchy. There is so many, right? Beautiful laws. Hierarchy. And so on. So you study the laws of nature. You understand and work with nature. Theosophy asks us to study the laws of nature and be worker with nature, along with them. You see that? So how do we get this eye of contemplation? First we need to know, we need to give it a name. Plato liked eye of contemplation. Is that a good name? I like the word buddhi. In the stanzas, it's called what? The eye of the Dhamma. Right? The eye of the Dhamma. So, please read everything you can and look for that eye. Where is the eye of the Dhamma? Right? That can look at this. It's not the third eye of psychic powers and all that. It's the eye that can contemplate the ideas. Why? The Secret Doctrine is asking us to understand nature, to understand the whole world, physical and metaphysical. We need to understand this scheme. What are those ideas that the Anshohan use? And what are they doing, these fellows of ours, the Anshohans? They're contemplating the ideas, they establish in a bridge the laws of nature, they establish a nature which we call in another book the divine plan. You're all aware of that divine plan, right? The book. Hopefully we can call it the divine plan or the way it is, or etc., etc. So this is what it is. It's so simple in this nature. So can we? Yeah. Erin is going to help me to maintain some stability here. Thank you. Oops, sorry. You got it? Yeah, great. Therefore, the other idea to study or how to study the stanzas of Dzyan is by illustration. You got to illustrate. Otherwise, it's too concrete, too mental. When you have the artist in you, How many artists are here? Okay. If you can do what I did to write the word, you're an artist. You can illustrate. When you don't draw an eye, just write eye, right? It's so simple. So illustrate. Look in museums. Great masters have drawn all this already. For instance, Robert Flood. Draw the Secret Doctrine. You know Robert Flood? He draw already the secret doctrine almost in its fullness. Isn't that impressive? So another technique, illustration, and therefore when you see illustrating me, is I'm trying to provoke inside me not just a mental reaction, but an integration, an expansion of my mind, to see beyond, to see colors, vibrations, harmonies, composition, etc. And that's very important. The second part, or another technique I use, is the one I told you is linking. We were in darkness, and then it says here, sorry. We have, for darkness, we should use dark, all right? So in the beginning, she says, remember how the poem starts? Says there is a page of the book, and I'm not going to just use a totally dark block. I'm trying to save ink. You have imagination, right? This is one page, and it's all dark. On the second page, right, we have the same dark page, right? And it has a circle with a point in the center. You know how she called the point in the center? The point. Yeah, the point. So this is the point. She also called it the germ. And she also called it the root of all. Right? And the root of all is our first logos. All these are cool names for that point. We could call it the point. This is just simple. The point. Now, listen to this. And this is how the mind likes to work. It is the point in the mundane egg, the germ within the ladder, which will become the universe, the all. You hear the all? Keynote, all is one. We got to get to the keynotes. Don't forget those 3 keynotes. This is all what it is. And this is on page 1 for people who likes it. It is the point in the mundane egg. This is the germ, will become the universe, the all boundless periodical cosmos. This germ being latent and active periodically and in turns. So, this is very concrete. Illustration can give us an incredible insight, but we cannot stay there. Therefore, the Secret Doctrine gives us the help in every symbol that she gives us concrete. She will give us an abstract idea, and in this case, the abstract idea of this is the following. It's right here. Then she says that the white circle and the point are one, because all is one. Remember that? And then she says, this one is an unbroken circle, with no circumference, for it is nowhere and everywhere. Wow. You see the abstract idea? Did you hear it? You want to hear my accent again? Okay, here we go. The one is an unbroken circle. Well, I know that. I saw it, right? With no circumference. What? For it is nowhere and everywhere. Once we thought we know, it's a circle with a point in the center. Now she says it's nowhere, and that point is everywhere. So, how do I deal with that? That's the difference between a Rembrandt and a Kandinsky. You see that? With a Rembrandt, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, you see, A grape is a grape. So perfect. You can even bite it. And with Kandinsky, you don't know where to bite. See the difference? They're both the same. It's the same human being. In his book, Kandinsky says, to understand this, you have to study this. The circles, the triangles, the lines, you need to understand them theosophically. You know, he was a student of all this stuff. You know Kandinsky, I'm just saying Kandinsky. Could be Mondrian or all those guys. Okay, you see the concrete and the abstract? Every time you think you're staying in the concrete, go to the abstract. Why? You're going from the mind to the buddhi. It's extremely important. You see that? From the concrete, push yourself. Break that concrete mind. This is not mental. This is meant to be intuitively, a mystical experience. But we need to start by knowing the text, its meaning, right? Make it a concrete for the mind, and then go to the abstract. So illustration is very important. How do you draw a circle that is nowhere and everywhere? Good? Good. This was very simple. Now she said, well, that's not true. That's true only for the mind. But it's really nowhere and everywhere. How do you draw it? How do you draw it? How do you draw it? You know, it's difficult. Isn't that true? And our mind will try to say nonsense. No, don't do that, Martin. Don't draw it. Don't. You want me to draw it? You want me to draw it? But the mind says no, so I'm not going to do it. It's impossible. You need to be a great mystic to say, well, it's nowhere. So please, in your study group, at home, enjoy this. Enjoy every idea. And take it to the maximum until you say, no, show me. And then if you can't, and your group cannot, go to the internet and see what Robert Flatt did with that, or other alchemists, or other mystics, and so on. It's incredible. It's incredible. Then, another technique. So please illustrate. When you illustrate, the most incredible things happen. The stanzas of Dzyan. Illustrate the stanzas. Each of them is so impressive. So, another way to study the stanza of Dzyan at the same time is by using what is called the law of analogy. The law of analogy and correspondence. Have you all heard of this? Just say yes to work with me. Yes. Thank you. And correspondence. Now, unfortunately, Blavatsky did not teach us how. Isn't that true? She says the law is this. She used a lot of illustrations, and so the masters, and so every master of religion and philosopher. And I think the reason why in this book there is no chapter of how to deal with this is because probably she and the masters understood at that time anybody with an education will know Plato. Because Plato is the master of analogies. The most incredible guy. If you don't know how to handle the law of analogy, you can do two things. Study Plato, especially the Republic, or email me. Cool? So, analogy means that if two things are analogous, some of their characteristics, because it's not equal, right? They're not the same. It's similarity, right? The universe slumbering is not a human being slumbering, right? We snore. I don't think the universe snores in Pralaya. You know what I mean? But once we establish an analogy, the terms that we brainstorm or we mystically know what they are, we then say they correspond to each other. You see what I mean? Analogy and correspond. So you establish the analogy, and all what you come out, why these two are analogous, they are the correspondence. For instance, let's do this. Every time you find an analogy, please study that as an analogy. Just like I said. Stanza 4, number 3. Sorry. stanza 5, number 2. It says here, Fohat is the steed and the thought is the rider. You see the analogy? Fohat is the steed. The rider is the thought, the divine thought. So we have the Dzyan Chohans are to the thoughts as, and I love my formula. Can you read this? As a rider. You know what a rider is? Is to the steed or a horse, right? The Dzyan Chohans is in relation to the thoughts. The Dzyan Chohans are in relation to the thought produced by the ideas, right? As a rider is to the horse that is driven. You feel it? You feel the analogy? We don't know what Fohat is, but it's giving us an analogy, powerful analogy. For something that we know, a rider to the steed and a Dzyan Chohan to the thoughts, to the Fohat. To Fohat. Fohat. So we want to know the relationship between the thoughts of the Dzyan Chohans. You follow what I'm saying? And Fohat, in she or the stanzas of Dzyan, said it's like the riders to the steed. So, tell me, now we know so much about this. What is the relationship between the Dzyan Chohans and Fohat? And here is Fohat, right? It's the bridge, remember? Fohat is the bridge. What can you tell me? And I need one person who volunteer to unveil this analogy. Anybody? If I don't get a volunteer, you have to deal with me. Anybody? Thank you. So the question is, I don't understand this part. Explain this to explain this.
Sure.
With this idea. Go ahead.
Okay. So I perceive the steed and the rider as in terms of engineering terms, as the carrier signal and the envelope. Mm-hmm. Okay, the way AM radio works. You have a carrying signal, just a radio signal, and then the envelope is the modulation of the voice.
Good.
So, but to take it further, from
but you have to shorten this.
Okay, I'll shut up real quick. There is such a concept as the etheric fabric of space. Okay, and that etheric fabric of space permeates all of the universe, and that is the Fohat.
Okay.
The rider on that is the steed. The rider on that steed is every thought that every human being that ever lived has. So the thoughts of the Dzyan Chohans are the same thoughts, are also thoughts identical to those thoughts that we have, for example, that imprint themselves on that fabric of space, which eventually is what we call the Casa records.
Thank you. Very cool, you see? So in a study group, you get 5-6 people, right? All different than him, right? And everybody contributes with an idea. But remember, stay on the theme. A rider knows where he's going, hopefully. The rider handles the horse with a mission, right? The rider. So look for ideas. Why this mythical expression of something metaphysical in nature in the Secret Doctrine is represented as a rider with a steed. Isn't that interesting? Just develop. And you will see correspondences between the Dzyan Chohan and Fohat because now you develop how the rider deals with the steed. If you find one that doesn't work, for instance, the rider feeds daily the horse. I don't think that will work. But there are some that will work. You see how it works? So please, stay on the topic. You want to develop everything you can about what you know, and that will correspond to what you don't know. Use this technique. Was it understood? The law of analogy is extremely simple. To practice, Plato, if you want. And there is a lot of here. The Dzyan are like the army of a nation, remember that. That's another great analogy, and so on. So let's go to another analogy. This is very cool. And on stanza 1, Blavatsky said on page 21, the first stanza describes the state of one all during pralaya. One all during pralaya. So in stanza 1 is the state, right, of the one all at rest. Why rest is important? Because the universe has no beginning, no end. Therefore, it's cyclical in its nature. At rest. So, the state of the one all during pralaya. We are studying the one all. And then he says that this one all in pralaya is in a state of absoluteness. It doesn't say absolute, because the absolute is space, and this is, in pralaya, is the state of absoluteness. By analogy, if this represents the one all in pralaya, right? The one all in pralaya, right? One all. And you go to stanza 1, and in stanza 1, number 1, you remember by heart, anybody? 1-1? I used to know it, but now in front of you. Yeah. The eternal parent, wrapped in her ever-invisible robes, had slumbered once again for 7 eternities. You remember that? By analogy, Blavatsky said that stanza 1 can be summarized, can be outlined. The keynote of stanza 1 is the one all at pralaya. So the one all in pralaya is 2 things. An eternal parent wrapped in the ever-invisible robes. You agree? So the one all is really 2 things. Do you see that? So from the one, how the 2 became one. Do you know that? How the 2 became one. If the universe was one, where the 2 came from? If you say there is a God, that's not here. My friend.
It differentiated from within the one.
Perfect. That's what it says. He said, let me repeat. Martin already said that he said it so well. The differentiation of the one. In other words, the one is really not one, it's one all, remember? In that all is already 2. Therefore, when you look at the one, when you look at this point also, what you're going to see, if you can expand it in Manvantara, is a 2. And if you are in the east, you will see a 4, right? So where the 4 came? Oh, from the 2, and the 2 from the 1. It's all differentiation, in that process of differentiation. Isn't that interesting? So this one all is really an eternal parent with the invisible robes. You see that? Can we see that? And she called, if we go now and we jump to the next page in stanza 2, she says the following. The 7 sons were not yet born from the web of light. Darkness alone was this darkness. Why? Remember, in pralaya, at rest, the one all is in the state of absoluteness. Right? Of absoluteness. That means that it appears to be all absolute. Because there is no movement, so to speak. There is no activity, better said. So this appears like this, and so we can say darkness alone was father-mother Swabhavat. Father, Mother, Swabhavat. You see that? And by analogy and correspondence, we understand more about who is this eternal parent, right? Who is those invisible robes? You cool with me? You follow with me? Did I lose them? I lose any of you? There are stanzas we're linking in order to understand this one all, because we know that the one is the germ, and the germ is the key for all this. Remember, she said this. We're going to the root. So, by analogy, the one all is the eternal parent, wrapped in her ever-invisible robes. It's a description of pralaya. And then, it's an equal, or better said, an analogy to Father, Mother, Swabhavat. What's very interesting is then he says, these two fellows here, Father, Mother, Swabhavat, is the germ. See that? I'm just reading. I'm not making this up. I'm just reading. Please, this is very impressive. Very impressive. So when you read and you link and you illustrate, things bloom in a way that is very impressive. This germ is one. This universe was still concealed in the divine thought, and we know that the ideas are at rest. When the divine thought are concealed, it's because the Dhyan Chohans did not appear into being to contemplate these ideas. That is stanza 3. Follow me? Stanza 1 and 2 deal with the universe at rest, for those who never read the stanzas of Dzyan. This is the most puzzling aspect of the stanzas of Dzyan. We know what is the universe at rest by analogy. Mystically, by analogy. Because there is an analogy at work. There is a symmetry at work. There is a harmony at work. And to unveil it, to link it, to illustrate is very important. So what is stanza 3? It says here, it describes the reawakening of the universe. Just like us. Coffee. You see? But it also said it depicts the emergence of the monads from the state of absorption within the one. So in this one, in this germ, all the monads are there. Who are the monads? You and me and everything else, right? You, me, everybody else. Everything else. Monads everywhere. Right? Isn't that true? Monads. So it's very important to study monads. We don't have enough time to study monads. Time is not. So here is where you need to understand that the monads are everything. And please, this is a quote that we need to read and reread all the time to understand monads. And it's from page of the Secret Doctrine, if I can get it. Yes, 175. The monad. And when I say the monad, think about you. Or me. It's better me, right? The monad emerges from its state of spiritual and intellectual unconsciousness, which means what? Pralaya, rest. What rest means? A state of spiritual, intellectual unconsciousness. Isn't that interesting? Linking analogies is giving us a lot. And then he says something very striking. Skipping the first two planes, too near the absolute to permit any correlation. Skipping two planes. Look at what he says. Why? The monad, we know, is Atma Buddhi, right? The pilgrim. And in those stages, like Plato said, resides pure light. The mystery of light is because in those two states, the only thing we have is light. That's incredible. The monads don't live in those. They skip those. There's no activity there. And we always talk about, when I was in the Atma plane, I had a cup of coffee with John. You remember that? There's no sense. It doesn't say that here. Skipping the first two. I saw my monad. It was a triangle. People say the most incredible theosophical things. I saw my monad. It says nothing. It says it's no shape, pure light. Why? Well, it's the most brilliant light. The most brilliant light. You see that? Then it goes to the lower planes and acquires a vestment. Isn't that beautiful? Monad keeps the first two planes. Please don't fall in that horrible mistake of giving the monad something that only a mind can do. Talking and sharing and getting a wife and getting this and that. Monads don't do that, okay? That's very cool. So that takes us to stanza 3, which is the most incredible thing in the stanzas of Dzyan. In stanza 3 is the awakening of the universe. The first thing it says is, darkness radiates light. Isn't that beautiful? Stanza 3. Darkness radiates light. And in that, the universe is born, awakes. Darkness radiates light. Now, imagine if you're depicting this, illustrating. This is beautiful to illustrate. Darkness radiates light, and light drops one solitary ray into the mother's tip. The ray shoots through the virgin egg. The ray causes the eternal egg to thrill. I love you. And drop the non-eternal egg and condenses into the world egg. Wow. Can you illustrate that? Oh, that would be so beautiful. Have you ever done that? Please say yes. Yes, do that. Work with me. Oh, yeah. So this is incredible, to be in touch with one of the most brilliant ideas of the universe, the world egg, the need for rays, the need for the virgin egg, the thrilling of the universe. To participate, you get what Plato promised us that we will get, illumination. Why? We are in touch with divine ideas. And divine ideas in the plane of divine thought is pure light. Isn't that incredible? And then what happens? Because there is a lot. Then he says the root remains. Remember what Blavatsky said. The germ is a term I'm going to use about the point in Pralaya, but in Manvantara, I'm going to use the word the root. So, in Pralaya, in Manvantara. Got it? I don't know if I'm pronouncing Manvantara well, but please, all this linked together in one beautiful mandala. Beautiful mandala. And then what happens? The root of life was in every drop of the ocean of immortality. The ocean was radiant light, because now this is light. All this is in light. You see that? Our universe that was dark is light. What is that light? The white disk, right? It's all white now. Radiant. And then it says, darkness vanished and was no more. It disappeared in its own essence. Can you illustrate that? Very abstract. Darkness disappears in its own essence, which is the body of water and fire. Which is, how about fire in red? He moved, that monad is really active. Fire and water. Remember, you don't have to draw it, you can write it, right? And then it says, or father and mother. So we have father and mother. It's the same word. Father and mother. You see what happens when you illustrate? I hope you can see the beauty of these stanzas, that they come to life as you illustrate, right? Water, fire and water, or father and mother. Stanza 3, number 7, is the most religious one. He describes Jehovah. I mean, that's big. right? He describes the third logos. He describes Zeus at work, Jehovah at work. And he does it, and it commences each with a word that is the most mystical word that you can write. It's the word behold. There are 4 beholds in cosmogenesis. 2 here to describe the God of all religions, or what we call the third logos. 1, the description of the third logos. And the second behold, what it does. Description and function. You see that? So, I want to read 1. Behold, all anew, the radiant child of the two. Isn't that beautiful? Third logos. Radiant child of the two. Right? Emerges from the depth of the great dark waters. He shines forth. He is, now, this is very Egyptian, very Chinese. He is the blazing divine dragon of wisdom. Then you go to all the museums and look for dragons of wisdom. Divine dragons, blazing divine dragons. There is another behold, and this is about what he does. Listen to what he does. Behold him lifting the veil and unfurling them from east to west. There's a beautiful analogy there. He shuts the above. Look at that. He shuts the above, the world of fire, right? The above. And leaves the below to be seen as the great illusion. Very impressive. This is what God does. The word God is not here, but this is the third logos, right? And the logos, remember in the glossary, is the creative deity of all religions, mythologies, etc. He marks the places for the shining ones. What are the places of the shining one? The relation between the Anchohans and the ideas. He marks them. And why? Because this is a hierarchy of divine beings in 7, 7, 7, 7. And there is more about that in stanza 5. And then he says, he turns the upper in a shoreless sea of fire. Why? Fire is an analogy with mysticism. And you can see every prophet in the Bible saying, "Hey, with fire. I saw fire, whirlwind of fire." Isn't that incredible? And the one manifested into the great waters. See that? Then he says, Father, Mother. You see it? Is it there already? Father, Mother. This is linking. Father, Mother spins a web. Spins a web. So, Father, Mother, Swabhavat, right? Father, Mother spins a web. You know what a web is? And what spinning is? Father, Mother spins a web whose upper end is fastened to spirit. The upper end is fastened to spirit. The lower one to its shadowy end and matter. Father, Mother, remember Father, Mother, Swabhavat, the eternal parent, robes is what's in the one. Now, Father, Mother spins a web whose upper end is fastened to spirit, the lower is fastened to matter, and this web is the universe. You and me are in that universe. Spun out of these two substances. Spun out of the two substances made in one. So this is really one. See that? To make it clear, huh? And what's the name of that? Swabhavat. So what is the relationship between these two? Look how they work out the universe. Father, Mother is the radiation of the universe that is going to cause matter to be active, to be the cloth of the universe, the web of the universe, and one is the spirit, the other is the matter, and ladies and gentlemen, this is our famous Swabhavat. You see how the one is the two, and she works all the way, linking and linking into something magical, which is the universe. This is Theosophy. If we can get in touch with any of these ideas, this is the most brilliant light of being. And the promises is illumination. What the light of being is, what the ideas do in our world, they inform to nature its purpose, informs its function, its quality, its number, its color, everything. The moment you're in touch with one of those ideas, you know it. That is illumination. This is why we meditate. This is why we study the stanzas of Dzyan and the Secret Doctrine. In order to understand those important, primordial, innate ideas in the divine mind that establish our universe. And I promise you, because I read it in Plato, if it happens, and whenever it happens, it's a glorious moment. Why? We are a Buddha. We can see karma. We can see everything that idea can give it to us. Isn't that incredible? To see it, to participate, not with the mind, we started there, but with our intuition, with the eye of Dogma. The eye of the Dogma does mysterious things. Study that in the Secret Doctrine, the eye of contemplation. To finish that, in stanza 4, Blavatsky said, the book of Dzyan, the stanzas of Dzyan, develop the idea of the Dhyan Chohans. Cool? Stanza 4, Dhyan Chohans. It's developed under two sacred numbers. 1065, then the number of Jehovah. 3:14:15, the number of the hierarchy of the divine beings. Elohim, plural, Elohim. Very Kabbalistic, stanza 4. In stanza 5, you will have now a description of the second Dhyan Chohans, the divine beings, that are called Lipikas. Second 7. And the Lipikas, with the Fohat, which we know already, are going to have a dance. I call that the dance of Shiva. And in stanza 5, you're going to, if you illustrate properly this, you will have what the Lipikas do and what Fohat does, and in that dance, our universe are formed. You and me will show up. Isn't that majestic? You see it in front of you appearing, worlds all together. By what? By this, in this fabric produced by the first two, Father, Mother, and Swabhavat. You will see it. And then in stanza 6 and 7, the physical worlds are coming into being. And then the last beholds in stanza 7, which is, behold the beginning of sentient, formless life. Imagine that you are able to contemplate the last idea in the Secret Doctrine. The need for, first idea, why something happened. Second idea, in that happening, why something happened and is directed in a divine plan. And the next contemplation is why the emerge did it this way. That's stanza 3. The next behold is why out of all this nonsense of matter, there is life. Conscious life. Sentient life. Isn't that incredible? If you were able to see for 1 microsecond something like that, like you see the beauty of a flower, and for again a microsecond, maybe nanosecond, you are one with it, and you say, a beautiful flower, and your soul was captured, like Plato told us, and take you to heaven for a split of a second. Then we come back, and what do? Oh, we cut it, we put it in a flower pot, right? This is our mind. That's why mind doesn't do these things. Doesn't grasp the idea. Mind wants for me, myself, right? Now if we have manas, then we say, what happened? Let's understand this process, right? It's a more universal, impersonal aspect of our mind. But these Kamamanas get a hold of that brilliant ideas, mine, to the bathroom flower pot or the kitchen, etc. So in stanza 7, humans show up. Then in the second volume, ladies and gentlemen, we have in 12 stanzas the evolution of the human beings. From a sentient, formless life into you and me. The stanzas of Dzyan does not cover pralaya, into pralaya. We have to study that by analogy. But we have a wonderful book about that, which is the Apocalypse, Revelations. If you study Revelations, you will see that in the very first page, you have the description of the hierarchy of the divine beings, all the way, and each one is a mythical representation. Then you have the 7 light lamps, which are the 7 keynotes given to the 7 churches, and then in the do's and the don'ts, like in the voice of the silence, and etc. In the 4th, 5th chapter, you're going to get the hierarchy of the divine beings. You study that, you understand stanza 4. Then you're going to have an incredible dragon, a blazing dragon that instead of building a universe is going to destroy it with its tail. You see how mythologically it's put in context? But it can't kill the virgin mother, the virgin woman. Why? Because that's Swabhavat. You can't kill Swabhavat. It will never catch it. It's all in there. It's all in there. So if you want to see the solution, please study that. And it's of course, it's mythologically, it's mythically, it's whatever, symbolical. But it's all in there. It's all incredible in there, symbolically speaking. And then after the dragon does all that, what happens? Silence. Pralaya. And then a new universe shows up. What is the universe? With all the gems and gold, is the incredible ideas existing. It comes down and a new beginning starts. It's all in there. Or in the Secret Doctrine, it is beautifully laid out. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Any questions? Any 1 minute? There is not too much time left. And that's your fault, of course.
It was a superb talk. It was very, very interesting. And my question is this. You began with the topic of this meeting about Theosophy and human social responsibility. You read from the Key to Theosophy, where she said that it was human selfishness that kept us from moving forward.
Yes.
So how is it that the study of these stanzas helps us break away from that which has chained us to this terrible condition that we are in today?
Thank you. It's a wonderful question. And the part I didn't mention in the stanzas of Dzyan, I was rushing a little bit, is behind all this, in Blavatsky commentaries, there is something that we call ethics. The reason for all this. And it's beautifully explained in the Voice of the Silence, of course, and in every ethical teaching that we had from all the great teachers. So ethics. What happens is when we study the laws of nature, when we study the unifying essence or principle of life, when we get in touch with this universe, that it all came from the one, is a sense of belonging that appears in our soul. It fills the soul with a sense of belonging. I belong to that web of light. I am reflecting the third logos. I am the third logos, so to speak. And then, hopefully, what Plato said is these ideas are also also, which is the most important and interesting thing. Each idea that are used by the Dzyan to study nature is in reality also a virtue, is a vibration, is a thing that will develop into something, but it's also a virtue. So as we study this, virtues will appear in our soul, and then it comes now the unveiling of a virtuous life. It just happens because it's one-to-one. Illumination doesn't mean I know. It means I am. And you are a virtue. That's why these virtues, like in Plato, are representation of gods and goddesses. And each of them is a force, intelligent force in nature. Therefore, along with the studies of the Secret Doctrine, comes these brilliant moments. And in our soul, this is a transformation. Also, the eye of the dogma, what Plato told us, when we develop this eye of intuition, it will purge what is not in the laws of nature. Everything that, like adharma, everything that we do negatively, it will be purged. Why? By contemplating these highly light things that we call the ideas. So there is a transformation process if this happens. One more question, yes, John? One more thoughts? No? Yes, in the back.
Hi, thank you very much. That was really wonderful. Botanos say that in order for the intuition to come through, it has to paralyze the intellect.
It has to?
Paralyze the intellect.
Yes.
And that's a big problem, isn't it?
Oh, totally. That's why this is almost like impossible, isn't it? You know, imagine you study the voice of the silence, right? Kill thy mind. What does it say? Kill the mind? Slay. Well, that's easier, right? Yeah. Slay thy mind, right? I mean, that's impossible. That's all I have. So it's really hard work. You're absolutely. Now, there are ways that we can explain how we do that. But to become mystic is a long way. I mean, mentally we can explain itself, but we have to go mystically and actually do it. One thing is to say, I'm on to renounce the world, and the other thing is to live like St. Francis of Assisi. It's very impossible. Impossible to be like St. Francis. It's impossible. For us, it's impossible. We're just in this very little beginning. So yes, it's so true. It's a great observation. We can't. And why we can't? This process is a very long process. It appears to be easy when people say, the only thing you need to do is to detach. Detachment is a problem. Ignorance is a problem. Well, that is the life. That's our life. We attach and we're ignorant. So it is, for me, in my opinion, right? Thank you for asking. It's my opinion. It's almost impossible. Very few or almost none every year will get it.
Very quickly,
Yeah.
it's said many times in the Mahaka letters, try.
Try. And that's what we have. And Plato said, practice the virtues. Practice. Practice does it, right? Practice. And Plotinus said, when you practice, you get back the good vibes. He said the good vibration. He said that. That's the... Yeah, I like more Proclus, but Plotinus is way too mystic for me. But he's just incredible. He's so focused in the one. Amazing. Yeah. Did I see one more? Yeah, one more. By the way, I can continue till midnight or tomorrow. It's okay. I mean, endless.
So this process implies that we, as a final creation of the ideas or thoughts.
We're not the final, but let's continue with your thoughts. Yeah.
One of the creations
of
the great Dhyani Shohas.
Yes.
How is it that they could have created such beings that are willing to kill each other so easily?
For the same reason that when you have and you capture the idea of beauty of something, you break it and take it in the flower pot. Once we have that mind, and that mind is dual, kama manas and manas, and I can see the vocabulary, in other words, the moment in anthropogenesis where human beings come into being in that chain of life, right? You follow me? In the chain of life, from the elemental kingdom, 3 kingdoms in the elemental, to the rocks and mineral and plants, animals. When we are in the human beings, right? As human beings, this is exactly what they say we are experimenting. We are experiencing that duality. There is no way out of that. In other words, what they imply is that if a human being comes from another planet, don't expect something better than us. They are just like us. Human being has a common manners, and that's who we are.
But how can somebody so perfect?
No.
So imperfect.
No. He didn't create something that's perfect. That's the plan.
Oh, the plan of killing each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because nothing dies. You read the Bhagavad Gita.
I understand.
Nothing dies. Really, in the long term, nothing dies. In the short term, it hurts like hell. Right? And then Plato said, an eye for an eye is what humans are for. And really, a philosopher king, never eye for an eye, but justice, in the highest sense of the virtue, of the idea. So it's a divine plan. Then what happens when you finish the human being? You know what happens? This is in the Secret Doctrine. You become a higher being, with less human, more divine. And you go on. For how long? Forever. That it says, no beginning, no end. So this is the plan. This is the plan. And if you think about it, don't change a thing, because this is very important. You got to do it because you know it. That's the right way to do it. Until we have walls in our homes, and this is my home, and this is mine. We are miners, right? We're mining our personality. While we're doing that, there is no chance to be mystic, but we have flashes of it. Flashes. In every reincarnation, a bit more. And this is a process that will last a long time. This is so impressive. Therefore, we have to take care of our fellow animals, our fellow plants, our fellow rocks, right? The elemental kingdom, we have to take care of them, by not bothering them too much. They're doing their job, right? And the divine king, the divine beings, they're taking care of us in some manner. I don't know about them, but, we are who we are. This is it. The whole universe establishes that. This is who we are. We got to love it. We got the good and the bad. You marry a human being, the good and the bad. You marry yourself. You want to marry yourself. The good and the bad. Yes. Yes, Tom.
Well, earlier, when the question was brought up by this gentleman, and you said it all had to do with ethics,
Yeah.
What made sense at the time was, a question is asked in the ocean of Theosophy, answers to questions. The question is asked, what is nature?
Okay.
And the answer is given that, as we recall, that is the interaction and the interrelation of all beings of every degree and all forces. It's the interaction and interrelation of them. And so then it seems the study of the Secret Doctrine that we're doing here, essentially we're studying the laws within nature, and if we're going to make the effort to do this, and the only real reason to make progress is to open ourselves to our intuition, then by definition, ethics is going to have to be, the mainstay of your life. Because if it's not, what you're going to learn more is more about what nature is. And then the question becomes, am I really the reflection of what nature is?
Yes.
And it can be a scary answer sometimes for people. Anything below people, the answer is, of course, nature is nature. But for man, we have the choice not to follow the processes of nature, and we see what some of the consequences are of that, and we can consider that in the context of social responsibility.
Perfect. That's beautiful. The only thing to add is the other danger is, of course, the danger of the cities, acquiring psychic powers before the right time. Before the right time means that if someone bothers you, as our friend. What's your name again?
I'm Joe.
Joe.
I don't have any of those.
No, me neither. But imagine that a human being acquires these CDs and is in the highway and finds an Atlantean carrying his lane. And then we send them into with our CDs. So it can be. So we have to be careful. Again, thank you so much, everybody. Lovely. Thank you.